So you do it? I'm sorry? So you do read? Yes. It's, yeah. Oh, it's on your I just gotta go get it. Yeah, it's there. This is just a test. Yes.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is being conducted in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. The Verona Board of Education passed a resolution at its meeting held on March 27, 2012. The meeting set forth the schedule of its regular meetings, which resolution was within 7 days of passage. The schedule was sent to the Verona Sea-Roof Times, the Star Ledger, the Herald News, the Township of Verona, and the Verona Education Association. Postings of this meeting setting forth the time, location, and agenda were posted in each of Verona's 6 schools, the board office, and town hall. This posting was also sent to the government newspapers, all SCA presidents, and SCA liaisons. The Verona Board of Education operates under consent agenda format. Any board member has a right to have an item pulled to be voted upon or discussed separately. Copies of tonight's agenda and resolutions have been made available to the public present. Mr. Eunice?
Here.
Mr. Block? Here. Mr. Elliott? Here. Mr. Polino? Here. Mr. Quattro?
Here. Okay, we have our regular agenda meeting tonight. Oh, no, I'm sorry, work session meeting tonight. We do have resolutions, it's many to get to. First thing we're going to do is just have a, as we've done in the past, on occasion, have a moment of silence in observance of September 11th. Okay. Let's get into our agenda. First thing is any public comments or questions about any of the agenda items themselves? No? Okay, let's go right to the committee reports. We had kind of split between meetings, so we only had 3 committee meetings, I think, since the last time we met in August. Want to do athletics first?
Yeah, we did have a meeting tonight, and we did discuss. Main topic, obviously, was the football field. As has been discussed here at board meeting, last board meeting, and also in the paper, a lot of attention has been given to the fact that we did have a sinkhole open up. We do now have a geological study being conducted. I'm not sure that that's the right term for it, but geotechnical study, which is it a sound control study or is it a radar? Sound penetrating radar. Ground penetrating radar. Ground. Will you take it up at buildings and ground?
Okay. Unless you cover it. I mean,
you probably know more about it than we do, but we did discuss it. They're in the first day, and I'm just going briefly over and you go into more detail.
Okay.
We've completed the first day of the study. It's going to be a 2-day study.
So it's the second day.
Today's the second day? So they'll be finished?
They're going to need some time tomorrow.
All right, so I'll take it over about the course of 3 days. We don't know what the outcome is going to be. They've given us some preliminary observations. And what is happening is that a contingency plan is being put together now when we are preparing the lower field for use for our activities for the fall. That being the football team, the band, and anything else that's generally participating. Anything else?
It's for football games and for band.
And the band, okay. And we don't know how long over the course of the season that the alternate field will be used, but at this point in time, we're just going to prepare the field and we'll play on it as long as we can, as long as we have to, and we'll return to the upper field if and when we can. And more about this will be said in Billings Ground.
Sure.
Okay. We also have taken a closer look at the track down behind HB at the Hatchet Field. And we are discussing the condition of the track. We have talked to MKA, who are partners with us on that track when it was installed approximately 10 years ago. The fact is that it's showing a lot of wear, and right now we have a quote which may be on the high side of about $130,000 for replacement of the surface only of that track. We think that is a high estimate, and if it needs a resurfacing, we could get it done for less than that. The plan now is to just repair it as best we can to get us through the current school year and discuss any long-term remedy to that problem over the course of the year and for next year's action next year. We also have some problems with our gym bleachers. We are looking at the potential of replacing some of the bleachers and perhaps even talking with the town with regard to replacement of bleachers in our main gym, which right now are not really in great shape, but will get us through the year. We have tonight as first readings, we have one policy and 2 regulations. Is that right? One policy,
2 policies, 1 regulation.
2 policies and 1 regulation. The 2 policies are on social networking and the regulation is on, okay, the contractors.
The regulations on field trips and the 2 policies are on social networks.
Okay. The use of social networking has become a rather prevalent thing the last few years, and we're seeing some things happening that we're not pleased with, not only as a school board, but certainly as just a parent or anyone concerned about the welfare of children. See that there's a great deal of use of social networking now between teachers and students. So we are putting policies in place. The 2 policies, one is for teaching staff or certified staff, the other is for support staff or non-certified staff. The policies are identical. We hope that it will give us some ability to act if some negative thing should happen, which we hope doesn't happen, but we'll provide at least a framework for how certified staff and non-certified staff will interact with students at all through social networking. The regulation that we will be approving for first reading is on field trips. We had long discussions about field trips in the last few meetings following our field trip to Camp Bernie, which we had some adverse things happen there. So we have come up with a very comprehensive regulation, a great deal of requirements in terms of establishing a field trip, approval of a field trip, who goes on a field trip, the chaperones that may or may not be included on a field trip. It's very extensive. A lot of work is gone into it, and we think that once it's in place, will help us to ensure against things that happened in the past few months that we weren't pleased with. So look them over. You have everybody in the audience has copies of. And public has a copy of it. Again, this is first reading. It does not become policy or regulation until second reading. So, and we hope will they be on our website? Are they on our website?
These aren't now, the ones that are approved will be.
Well, I think can't we put them on the website and tell people that they're there so that they can read them?
Policies?
Yeah.
Is there a different section?
It's put as a news item.
This is a different section.
These are read
somewhere so that if anybody listens to this or if it's reported in the newspapers that we have a new field trip policy, anybody who wants it can go and readily find it without having to come here and get a copy of it. I think since there's been so much discussion about it over the past few months, that it would be good that it's there, so if anybody wants to look for it and read it and come back with any comment, they'll be able to do so easily.
I'll post that tomorrow.
Okay.
So just a question on the social networking policies. When you said before that there's some things that you've heard about and all that raise some concern, you're not talking specifically in Verona, you're talking
No,
about general, right?
no, we're just, nothing in Verona that we did not report or choose not to report. What I'm talking about are things that we read about in the press or through the media that happened in other districts. In fact, there was one on the news tonight, in a prestigious prep school in New York. We've been so far, luckily, immune to that, but you never know. So what I'm talking about is not something that happened specifically in Verona, but talking about other districts. And we hope, that it doesn't happen here. And just at least give us guidelines as to, what kind of interactions there may be. And I guess that's about it. So I have to wrap up tonight.
All right, let's go right to buildings and grounds.
Buildings and Grounds did meet this evening, and we discussed a number of ongoing topics as well as some emergent ones. The first thing I'll discuss is the football fields. And Mr. Bellino began and certainly updated on much of the topics that I covered, but some things I can perhaps highlight is that we have received a preliminary report from French and Perello, the geoengineering firm that's doing the survey, and they have identified specific areas of concern, specifically in the northeast corner and also in the south end. In the northeast corner, it's looks like they've identified some metal, which could potentially be from rebar, from the part of the concrete that was probably used as fill when this was done back in the 70s. That's not as much of a concern, depending on the depth that that's at, but we'll have to do some kind of ore testing to positively identify that. But there was an area in the south end as well that we're not sure exactly what that is yet, so that's one of the reasons why we're still going to be around and trying to determine what that is. And we'll probably have to do some core samples there as well, just to be certain of what we're dealing with. Once we know what we're dealing with, we'll become the remediation phase. Once again, if there's a metal present in rebar that's present in the field, as long as it's at the depth, that's not a big concern. That's going to, the first frost that we have that's going to pop to the surface, that's probably going to remain in place. And then we'll have to see what the other area is and exactly what we're dealing with before we know what we're going to do. But that being said, Mr. Bellino already said that we're making preparations to get the lower field ready for the football games and for the band festival. In all likelihood, given the way, we're not going to have a report for a few more days. They're still here. Then we'll have to decide what we're going to do. But in all likelihood, the field won't be ready before the end of the football season. So preparations have to be made. Unfortunately, there's expenses associated with these preparations. We have to have bleachers on the lower field. That's almost a $20,000 expense. Just to rent those for the season, as well as fencing, just some other incidentals. It's almost a $25,000 bill to prepare that lower field. So, not something we certainly want to deal with. It's not given the state of our budget, but unfortunately, there's not much else we can do. Another emerging concern that came up over the past week was concern over the application of pesticides and fertilizer on the fields. Before I go too far into that, we've talked about this before, but everything we do in the school is really around those kind of applications. We don't do this ourselves, we do outsource it, but it's really all mandated by something called the NJ School Integrated Pest Management Program, or IPM. It's a set of regulations that's really the guidelines of how things, when they can be put down, how the public must be notified, the records that must be kept, but it's really an in-depth guide to how to apply specifically pesticides, but also as follows is the fertilizer. For the situation that arose last week, The issue that we probably had was in the notification that the signage that was up listed 2 chemicals when indeed there were 3 chemicals that were applied. Other than that, we were probably within the letter of the regulation for that incident. That being said, there's in reviewing that, there's things that we could do better, and there's things that we are going to do better. So it's we're always looking to improve. So some things that we are going to do moving forward is to use the Global Connect as well as the website to and email to alert parents of the use of pesticides and fertilizer on the fields throughout the district. Over the summer, which this is over the summer, that doesn't need to be done. But going forward, we would want to do that anyway. So we're going to make sure that that information gets out. As well, we've created a section of the website that's going to, what are we calling it? Hold on, right next here. New link on the website regarding environmental compliance.
It's actually under buildings and grounds.
It's under buildings and grounds.
Under
Okay.
district management, buildings and grounds, and then in there are all environmental things and contact information for the department.
Okay. So all information will be there, as well as we'll notify by Global Connect and email. And then also the signage that goes in the field as well. So we strive to get better, and we certainly want to do the best job we can in getting information out to the public. Some other things that we talked about, there was another power surge on September 8th that knocked out some, at HW school, that knocked out some of our equipment, including the fire system, some of the motors in the fire system alarm. Total extent of the damage isn't known yet, not as severe as what we encountered last year during Irene, but this is just an ongoing issue, and we don't have a good grasp on how to totally mitigate it. It's something that the circuitry that we're on for HW is prone to these kind of surges.
So is the fire safety stuff will turn back on?
There was the fire alarm went off. It didn't break. The fire alarm went off because of the pump that burned out.
Yeah.
There wasn't a fire, it just a
No,
So the damage you're saying is the cost on this to replace the pump?
yeah.
Not the fire.
I'm
fire
sorry.
alarm system
Yeah.
is okay.
I misspoke. That's it. That's the extent. It was a productive meeting, certainly, and we'll keep you updated on the progress of the football field.
We've talked about this before. And maybe you get this as a member of the Buildings and Grounds Committee, but I don't remember getting it as a non-member. I remember that when I was in the district and I was responsible for the facilities and facilities management, I had to prepare, prior to the summer repair season or cleaning season, a schedule of projects that were going to be done either through the summer or beyond the summer. Now, I've never seen a copy of that.
I do receive that, and I do have a copy actually with me I can give to you, but we should make sure that's included in the packet.
Okay.
As well as what I want to provide for you, we don't have to yet, you've asked for this as well, is a list of more routine maintenance. So you have a list of projects that take place,
Okay.
but I do have a list of projects by building that I'll pass through the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. But I'm sure the project would like to see that as well.
Yeah, I think we should. I think we should make it a matter of policy or procedure to review it before the summer. I mean, next spring as we're looking toward the summer. And we do have a maintenance budget. We have this growing list of facility projects that we can't get to. We know.
Absolutely.
It's beyond our ability to get
It
to.
is.
But there are certain things we do get to. I mean, we have a couple $100,000 in our maintenance budget. So I'd like to know, what are we spending it on?
Well, the last meeting, I certainly went over some of the highlights for the summer. I did
Okay.
report on that. Here's a list
All right,
by
thank you.
school of some larger projects. And just, it's easy to say there's couple $100,000 in the maintenance budget, but a lot of that is salary, obviously, that
Right.
goes just to maintaining the buildings on a daily basis.
Right. Well, I
Not necessarily, we don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars just to allocate towards
Well, we do.
projects.
We do. I mean, we have a salary line and we have a maintenance line, which includes repairs and maintenance. So, and it's substantial. I mean, it's not just $10,000. I mean,
No, it's not, and it's also the first line item that gets cut every year, you know, in
well, if you look at our
Sounds
budget,
like what we should do, Steve, is why don't we schedule, sort of a recap presentation on buildings grounds. We talked about this a little bit the other day, where we can say, here's our, for the record, you know, here's our facilities plan, right? Because we should be comfortable that the facilities plan is up to date and registered the right way. That's the state value of a plan, it's the whole 9 yards of a plan, right? Then the second thing we have is we have a summary of the high-level items, which is I'll call it the 5 tabs of spreadsheet version that we've met with the town twice on. Joe, you know, it's that document that you've had in the meetings. That document is a subset of what's in the facilities plan. Say in that facilities plan book, whatever number of pages it is, the things that we're concerned the most about is this summary spreadsheet. And you can kind of think of those as kind of the executive summary of what's in there. That thing, that high-level 5-year outlook of what we expect that we're going to have to deal with, adds up to about $5 million over the total, right? And then next to that, say, all right, now here's our budget, inclusive of the salary, supplies, and whatever project money that we have in the budget, which is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, right, total. And then the last bit is, here's a list of the recap of the projects, and the projects that we get to, whether they're repairs and all, anything above, pick a line, you know, fixing a broken lock somewhere, sort of, you know, that's, you know, kind of highways and byways of a place working.
Exactly. That's under salary, because that's someone's gonna be here doing that.
Yeah, you know, those kind of stuff are kind of below the radar, but anything else that's material that we are going to, you know, just lay against that, because what that will do is it'll paint a nice, clear picture of, we've been diligent about registering the areas that we expect that we need to focus on, that's the plan. We're highlighting and putting focus on the things that are the most important parts of that we're afraid we're not getting to. That's what we've been met with the town about a couple of times. And then we have, here's stuff that we are knocking out that usually is smaller sized item than some of the things on the plan. Right, whether it's summertime or not, Joe, I think it's, you know, here's a highlight of the items that got done. Right, because if we get into some things in October, it's no different than getting to something in
I
July.
didn't talk about tonight, Joe, but my sense is, you know, I do spend some time during my committee report, which each week, what I'm saying, these are some of the, you know, I don't go through the entire, some of them do become the nitty gritty of fixing locks. But, you know, I'm just trying to think of the top of my head, some of the things that I mentioned last week, the drainage issue at Landing was a significant project that was undertaken. Bathrooms, you know, renovation. After Brown, the basement issues that we had over there, that was completed over the summer. And these are significant maintenance issues that we address.
So one of the things that we began doing 2 years ago, and then through the transition to superintendents, we sort of did it a lot less. We do it with Ms. Jewett comes and does her twice-a-year update on education agenda, right, academic and education agenda. Maybe we can do a once-a-year recap with Paul and have him walk through exactly that guidance with the extent that there's questions, he's right here to answer. Right? It's a public meeting and just go right through it as a presentation. Once a year, twice a year.
That would make sense.
I mean, this is a great list, and this is what I would like to see perhaps in advance next time. Maybe you do it in advance, and again, I'm not privy to that committee report, but if we can identify projects like this, determine whether they're in-house or going to be done outside, and come up with a tentative budget, and then find out, you know, after we complete the project, did we meet our budget or not. So I mean, this is fine, it's just, I would like to see it maybe more of a discussion before it happens and after, at a full board level as opposed to only in committee.
That's fine.
Just going forward. Okay.
So
Thank you.
Just one other thing, Glenn, if we can, on the fields. So correct me if I get any of this wrong, but I think it'll help the public too. Our propensity is still to uncover anything that we could remediate in the short and quick term.
That's correct.
And get the field open again and running,
I
right?
mean, certainly the goal is to open the field as quickly but as safely as possible.
Right. So where we are right now is we've got two sorts of things that they've identified in two different parts of the field. One is, hey, just so you know, X feet down from right here, there's some pieces of metal that look like rebar that might be pointing in all
Well, we
crazy
haven't repeat
directions.
yet, but yes,
Right, that's
below
what
the
I'm
ground,
saying.
there's something.
It's north of, it's lower than 2 inches and,
Yeah. It's not poking through the surface.
and closer to
yeah,
China, right? It's somewhere between them.
between those two.
So And based on that, you may have to dig a hole here and find out what that is and how close it is to the top, so it doesn't go through a frost and end up in somebody's leg. Right? And then the other part of the field, a little bit, the tree line there, and then towards that end zone corner where the fill is, that's what we've had sinkholes in the past, and saying, looks like you got some underground sinkholes getting ready to erupt.
Well, they're not identifying what it is yet, they're just, they're identifying as areas of concern.
Right. So depending on the size and complexity of what is down there as they finish the report, right, our propensity is to say, look, if we need to get a machine in here, dig it up, fill it in with the right caliber of rock, put sod on it and get it done, give it a week for the sod, whatever the remediation is, we need to get to that point, right?
Right, and that if that's what has to take place, that's what's gonna make the schedule look a lot longer.
So this would be a terrific story if it was March, right?
Sure.
So because it's September, the concern is football season, and football parents and players and concerns around that, and the band festival on the 16th. So what we've got is we've got a contingency plan at the ready. You guys met with the town today.
We're preparing to implement the contingency.
No, you got a plan at the ready. Right? We have a plan that says we can go execute this plan if we say go, pending the engineering finishing their bit, right? So just the kudos to the town and the administrative team here at the schools on this, because I know we said it before, but the quick 2 minutes on the history of this. In late August, as a football team was out there practicing one day, it was a Wednesday, I think it was. Mr. Forte was on vacation out of town. Mr. Cisa was out that day. Mr. Galvachek was out that day again, right before you kind of come back to school and start to gear up for the beginning of school. And this uncovered, and it's not a sinkhole. Right? I know that it was reported that way, and I got about 5 emails saying, when are you going to stop it? It's not a sinkhole. It looks like a well. It's a stone, man-made well that is there. And the history, so it's not in the far side of the field. So if you imagine the football field, if this was the football field, imagine a line to the football field, and the part of the half of the field that's closer to the school is largely natural earth. And the other side of the field, kind of grades down, was built up to make the property that looked like football field does today. And that was done in the 70s, sometime in the 1970s with all sorts of fill, which is why they very realistically could be hunks of concrete that were broken sidewalk or something, pieces of rebar or something sticking out of it. Who knows, right? So it's well uncovered, and there's an interesting history of it. The well looks like, or the shaft that looks like a well, pretty sure it's a well, is right about the 50-yard line, right off the home team sideline. And it looks like it was around I spoke to Bob Williams from the Historical Society. It looks like it's pretty much where the bakehouse or the kitchen area used to be for one of the cottages that became out of the boys' reform school that was here in the early 1800s, 1900s. That thing burned to the ground in 1900 and then replaced it with this 5 or 6 cottage buildings. And there's a number of them that also spanned out across the parking lot and the tennis court area. So it looks like this thing is just a well from over there. As a matter of fact, if you're on the football field ever, and there's a break in the action of the game, you can go on the home team side of the field, which I've been in town since 1982, and they never do this. But on the home team side of the bleachers, if you go to the rightmost end, you'll see the red railing and the wall there. Some student, you guys are students, right? I don't know if you guys ever saw this back then. You know the railing that's together? There's a red iron railing right on top of that wall. If you go to the other side of the wall, you'll see what that wall is. It's the outline of one of the cottages that's still there. The stone wall is still there. I don't know what the spray paint on the side of it says, but it's a part of the stone wall. And that's what we think this thing is. So we need to close the field until we're sure that there's no other kind of underground tunnels or anything else in there. Plus, there's always this concern of sinkholes in the parts of the field that were built up with fill in the 70s, because a lot of that stuff shifts and deteriorates, especially at that end of the field, that far end, which is where all the drainage problems are. When you have the drainage problems, it washes out some of the soil around some of that fill, and there's, who knows what's down there. It shifts around a little bit of all. So we need to make sure that we're safe on that. So when this happened, it happened like on a Wednesday morning or something like. Within 2 hours, Joe Martin called me on my cell phone at work from a meeting he was in Newark on his cell phone. Meeting was unrelated to anything that happened here, and he'd already sent over some of his staff to help out buildings and grounds guys to uncover what this was and to come up with some plan to remediate it. And 24 hours later, it was resolved. They filled it in properly. They put a steel plate. They dug it up, put a steel plate to cover the thing, put the soil back for a few feet on top of it, put the sod down, and when I went into the field that night, you can't even tell what the thing was. And it was that quick. And that's just another example of where, I have to say, when it comes to solving these sorts of emergency situations, the township has been a terrific partner. They've done a terrific job on this. Now they've taken that to another level, and Mr. Forte and the company here and the township put together what we'll call a contingency plan. That contingency plan says if we have to move or relocate any of the five football games? 5 home games, and then the band festival, which is the date in October. The plan is we would use the lower field. The only problem with the lower field is missing a couple of things. Does it have seats? Does it have bathrooms? Does it have electricity? Does it have goalposts? Does it have a scoreboard? Does it have a press box? Etc. So the township put together a plan for us. They got a contractor at the ready, and the plan sits there ready to be executed if we needed to. And they'll bring in, the field is already lined because the teams have been practicing on it, but they'll bring in the bleachers, they'll bring in electricity lines, so we can run power, they'll bring in the press box, which is going to be adequate not only for the football, but certainly we need it for the judges for the band competition. They'll bring in portable toilets, they'll bring in fencing, and also they'll help us, which is probably a good idea to do all the time, especially when you have an event like the band event, where you have lots of buses, where we can use the pool property to locate the buses, so we're not clogging up Sampson Drive with buses idling in front of people's homes and all that. So in the end, I think we're going to end up in as good of a spot as could be expected, with the unknown of, gee, how much of a backhoe do we need, and how much dirt do we need to take out, and what do we fill it in with, and what else do we find, right? That's really what the concern is. At the end of the day, Mr. Forte, I promise him that I will always say this, but at the end of the day, what we need is we're going to need the engineering firms and the town building inspectors to say, based on what you found, and based on what you did to remediate it, we don't see any reason why you can't use it. Go ahead. That's what we need. Without that, we just can't open the field here, and we're going to have to operate with contingency. That's, right?
Well said.
Practice it 7 times in the last 2 years. All right, community resources. We met yesterday under community resources.
You can go ahead. You're on the roll.
So we met yesterday for a quick meeting, and the meeting was specific to the strategic plan process. So there'll be, we actually should do a presentation on this for the public.
I have that in my notes.
All right, fine, so you cover it. So we went through so why don't you cover this part of your update, and all I'll say is we went through all the facets of what's got to happen in the strategic plan and timing. There is one thing that we need to decide as a board. There were sort of 4 positions in the strategic plan organization. One is the advisor that we contracted with, Judy Ferguson, who helped us the last time, and we approved that in the spring. There's a stipend for Liz Jewett to be the district facilitator, and she's already begun work, I think, right?
She started work, but the stipend part has not been totally resolved because I put the posting and all that.
Right. And then the last 2 bits are, there's a steering committee that has to take shape. We have dates for that steering committee to meet, and we do get a board seat. I think it's 1 seat, not 2.
She said 1 or 2.
Right, so we could do 2 seats. I'm more, personally, I would be more comfortable if we had 2 seats, and if one person couldn't make it, then somebody else is there at the minimum. I'll explain why that's important in a second. And then we go into working committees after that. And the working committees are where we've solicited members of the public to volunteer their time to be part of this. Those working committees are going to begin their work somewhere around late November, early December, or we'll just pick it up right after the holidays instead of trying to schedule meetings in the last couple of weeks of the year. So the dates for the steering committee to meet are Tuesday, October 2nd from 1 till 5 p.m. And then Thursday and Friday, November 1st and 2nd from 8 till 5 through the day. So the commitment is sizable. You have to be able to make half a day on a Tuesday in the afternoon on October the 2nd, and 2 full days that are 2 in a row on November 1st and 2nd. The reason why they're organizing that is not only because of the the time it is to get it done by the time Thanksgiving rolls around, but also because there's staff that are involved in that. So we're taking them, they're planning ahead for that lost time. Right, so if anybody wants to volunteer this would be a good time to raise your hand. Right? So,
This is, sorry, 8 in the morning? Is that again?
it's 8 till 5, so in the morning till 5.
No, I know that.
Thursday and Friday, November 1st and 2nd. So I'll volunteer to do it. But give it some thought, because if we can get somebody else as a backup, that would be terrific.
Yeah, I would like to, I just don't know, I'm in a tough position with leaving my classroom.
Give me the 2 days.
It's October 2nd from 1 till 5, that's a Tuesday. And then Thursday and Friday, November 1st and 2nd, from 8 till 5, effectively.
I'm gonna be out of town, but
If you can't do it, you can't.
If they, I can check my calendar, if they line up with, I'll check the while you're giving your meeting, but, the dates I don't have class, so I have a lot of days off in November, I'm definitely for it.
Just check it out, and, you know, if we could get another name, that would be terrific. Now, this is for the steering committee part only, right?
Yeah.
And then subsequent to that, there'll be opportunity to be involved in the working committee and action teams. So you can clear your calendars out for that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do superintendent's report.
Sure. Thank you. Everyone read through the regulation 2340 for the field trip to coincide with our policy 2340. And like I said last meeting, this policy addresses some of the concerns we had about field trips throughout the year. And I will post it online if any of the public would like to view it. If they don't have a copy of it, it will be posted online tomorrow.
Can you just explain, just for everybody's, so we have a policy already on this, so we're adding a regulation.
Correct.
So what's the difference between what the policy covers and what the regulation covers? So everybody's clear.
I believe as a rule, the policy is a shorter document, and the regulation gives more direction.
Yeah, that policy is the policy that tells you what to do, regulations tells you how to do it.
More specifically, how to do it.
Right.
The regulation is 12 pages, and includes a new form that chaperones would sign. This regulation is not only about chaperones, it's about how do we choose, how do we choose field trips to start, what is the procedure of getting it approved, what types of things should the teacher who's proposing the field trip think about, what is the principal's responsibility in a field trip, and then how do you select chaperones, and then in the end, there's actually a form where the chaperone signs saying that they'll abide by the 12 points that we made on the form. The form is part of the regulation.
Did we model this based on, take this from another district, or what was the basis for?
This was a mixture of a few things. Yes, it was from one other district, and it was from, there's also a regulation that Strauss Esme offers, so, and that was good because it coincides with our current policy. So really, I guess the template for it was the regular regulation from Strauss Esme. Strauss Esme is the legal firm that we contract with to deal with our policies and regulations. So we use that as our template. We use some other possible, a few other things that we found. The vice principals of both schools, the high school and the middle school, had their input into this. And then there was a few pieces that I checked out and made a couple changes. And then I disseminated it to the entire administrative team. And the administrative team, we talked about it at administrative council a little bit. Waited for some input. Everybody was happy with it, and that's where we're at today.
This is first reading, right? So we have time to resolve the first reading, and then we have a chance to comment on it, change it, amend it, and then the second reading puts it forward. Sure.
From the original one I gave you in the summer, I made a couple changes, and I put them in italics, and it was about involving the nurse a little bit more in the process of, it's actually, if you want to follow 2J. And it involves the nurse a little bit more in the process to get a field trip approved. October 5th is a professional development day, half day for staff. Things that we'll be working on will be the affirmative action presentation, an HIV training for staff, Also, we will discuss the new two social networking policies that are also in your packet that deal with how staff uses their own private accounts for social networking, and also deals with text messaging and things like that. So that will be part of the presentation on the 5th of October, given the fact that the policy gets approved on the second reading at the end of the month. All right, just a little bit about the strategic plan, because Mr. Quattrochi just spoke about it. I just wanted to say that we did hire a consultant that everyone knows about. Her name's Judy Ferguson. She guides us and helps plan on how to get this process done. We're going to have an internal coordinator, which will be posted, and then that internal coordinator will be here to present our update on where we are with the strategic plan, and we're looking at the October 9th board meeting to do that. The internal coordinator has been working with Judy Ferguson to decide on how to go about getting people involved, setting up the meetings, all that. So she's really been a big help to the district as a whole to get this process going. Another thing that we did with the high school principal, Mr. Sisa, obviously the graduation discussion, there's a lot of people that are happy about it. There's a lot of people that have questions or concerns. One of the things that we decided to do was he actually conducted his last SCA meeting for the officers last night up at Colwell College. So he brought them all up there. They met up there, they conducted their meeting, took them on the tour, explained a little bit about how the graduation would be in the facility, so that he could get a hands-on look at what we're going to offer at that facility. And he told me that everybody was very appreciative they did it that way, and that they were happy that they were able to see it, and that they're going to do some more. So the next step is he is going to bring students up there from his student government to take a look up there and take a look at the facility and have an idea of what we're going to offer up there. You guys talked a lot about the field. And yeah, the field. I was out on the field for a while today. That's all for my report.
Any questions? All right, let's, I think we've got through our discussion. I don't think there's anything unusual for that. So on these resolutions?
Okay, there's just a couple of corrections on the wording for the resolutions. Let me just first point out for the public, the policies that you got, the headings aren't consistent. The one that, the one that says the support staff members, if you turn the page, it then says teaching staff members, so just that heading needs to be changed. I don't know if anybody picked up on that.
4282. The first page says support staff members, the second page says teaching staff members.
So
We'll make corrections for that.
So in terms of the resolutions, on resolution number 4, that should read, resolve that the board approve the following bus drivers at the approved pay rate for the 2012-2013 school year. Number 16 should say, resolve that the board approve Nancy Evans to be approved as a permanent full-time aide for the elementary LSS class at Lanning Avenue School for the 2012-2013 school year. Mrs. Evans' hourly rate will be $12.25 per hour. Mrs. Evans is already approved as a substitute teacher. Finance resolution number 21, resolve that the board approve the contract with French and Perello Associates PA for professional engineering services for the Verona High School football field in an amount not to exceed $10,000 as per the attached contract. And then the last one is the addendum resolution, and that should read, resolve that the board approve substitute custodian Stuart Stevens for the 2012-2013 school year at the approved pay rate.
Ms. Levine, we don't need resolution 29.
Okay.
Just for the public on those policies, there are two copies of what are identical policies around the social networking sites bit. And the reason for that is the way the policies are organized. There's a separate policy for teaching staff that are certified versus non-certified staff. They just have to, there's two sections that have to cover staff appropriately.
And Mrs. Guardino brought out that there's nothing that specifies administrative staff, but the state, everyone who's certificated would be under teaching staff, so administrators and like that, is teaching staff.
Okay, resolution.
Resolved that the board approve resolutions number 1 through number 28 and addendum resolution number 1.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Elliott, seconded by Mr. Marino. Any question? Let's call the roll.
Mr. Yunus?
Aye.
Mr. Watt? Aye. Mr. Elliott?
Aye.
Mr. Polino?
Yeah.
Mr. Quatrochi?
Aye. Okay. Let's open up to public comment. Any question? Anyone?
Yeah, but I've never made a comment, but I'd like to speak.
Yes, please start. You just gave your name and address.
Okay, my name's Angela Manley, and my daughter Marissa is a senior here at Verona High School. I have emailed Mr. Forte, Mr. Patru, I'm not sure how to approach it, and received responses, but I still felt I wanted to come and just say a few words about changing the graduation ceremony to Colwell College. First and foremost, it was somewhat surprising to me as a parent that a decision of this magnitude was made without prior discussion. If I'm wrong, because I haven't been to meetings, if it was in a packet, if it was discussed, then I deserve to be corrected. But I only heard about it last week along with the entire senior class, and we were all kind of surprised and dismayed. My Hillbilly genes go back a long time. An older brother, 18 years older than me, that set foot in the door at 1956 and graduated in 57. My sister graduated in 1960, and I graduated here in 1974. My son graduated in 2004, and it was a beautiful evening, and I still have those pictures on my fridge. I know recently the weather has definitely been a problem for our high school. Last year it was 100 degrees out there, and what we did was, I think the speeches were shortened, but I was in the cafeteria in charge of the graduation reception where there was a TV set up, seating, air conditioning, and many of the grandparents and some pregnant teachers were in there. It was loud and clear. You saw everybody on screen. It was very comfortable. I understand that, Colwell might be able to seat 2,000 people, but as a parent, I feel a little discomfort outside in the heat might be doable if we know that our children and our seniors are happy. From what I understand, some of our seniors are not happy. I feel that after attending school here for 4 years, they should feel proud and happy to walk on the lawn, have the warmth of their immediate family, grandparents, aunts, uncles, neighbors, some townspeople that might come by to watch the celebration. I doubt it will hold the same feel at Colwell College. It will not be the same. It may be more comfortable to help with the weather elements, but our hearts will be missing the true feeling of being a graduate at Verona High School. Let's keep in mind our seniors' feelings with such a major decision. I think graduating high school is one of the memories everyone here in this room probably can think back in a flash and remember it. It is something we hold deep in our hearts, and it should be a good memory at a place you hold in your heart, like your home field. Please reconsider your decision, and thank you for your time. Thanks.
I would just like to add one thing. My daughter graduated from Verona High School on a night when they had to move the graduation into the gym because of inclement weather.
Yes.
It's the worst night I've ever experienced, and it was terrible. So while we recognize that there's tradition, there are also there are some pitfalls and some downsides to doing that. So I think Mr. Cortez indicated that it's an ongoing discussion, and we'll see where we go with that. But it isn't always as pleasant as you make it seem.
No, I know, and I was here at the graduation reception during the rain, and I just try to speak for the hearts of the kids, basically.
Yeah,
I
just,
just wanted to get on record, just be a voice.
Angela, one thing that you said at the very beginning, and we corresponded in the email too,
Yes.
we all should say what we're thinking, you know, we try to always manage ourselves to operating as openly and as consistently as we possibly can. This is one of those that I think the seven of us would say, at the last meeting, Ms. Hardenberg and, it was Mr. Ferrari came up, and there's two people that came up, I forget the names wrong, I apologize. And I think every one of us, all seven of us, walked out of that meeting that August night scratching our heads saying, how did we just resolve this without talking to anybody about it? Like we just did that, and that's not how we operate. So that wasn't an example. That's the one that, so, you know, the 22 and 1, I think, and that's the one. So we're going to fix that. Like Mr. Forte just said, the SCA meeting and tour was one step in that. You know, getting the students and student leaders to go on tour is another one. I think there's going to be more, because we need to discuss it as a board and say, how do we make sure that as a community we're comfortable that this is a good decision, or at least it's a good idea to try, right? So tours and more information is something that I think is out there. Being a bit clear on some of the reasons about it. You know, the weather is one thing. You know, hot weather is different than rainy weather. Hot weather means just, you know, folks that are in suits are uncomfortable. Rainy weather means the whole community that comes is uncomfortable, because the only location indoors is the gym, and there's no air conditioning. Imagine what that unit is in a June thunderstorm outside. Imagine what's like in a gym. Logistics. You know, there's a concern around, gee, how are we going to get the kids there and back? And project graduation takes place, and you know, do you bust them? Do you not bust them? To answer the question, yeah, I think we would bust them. But we haven't said that. And then finally, it's important to point out, because I don't want to use this as a crutch, because I think that would be the wrong thing to do. But what we resolved the last time, and again, I credit Mr. Forte with this, is that we reserved the date with the option to pull out of it if it's not the right thing for us to do. And one of the things we might want to consider is when we can pull out of that date. You know, at some point there's a time when they say you can't pull out past this date that you committed to. Maybe we should clarify what that is with them, because you know, maybe there's different options. Maybe you say, look, we have it as a backup plan if I'm pretty sure it's going to be bad weather. And if it's going to be fine weather, then okay. The challenge with it is one of the things that's a reason to do it is it would allow us to have something like 2.5 times or something like that the number of guests. We wouldn't have to be as tight with the tickets as we typically are. You have many more guests that can come with ample parking and ample seating and air conditioning and all that. You know, it's big TV monitors and screens for presentations and video shows and that kind of thing. So I think as the whole story gets out there, either we'll be more comfortable that it's a good thing to go off and try, or I'm back to, we made that quote the other day, Steve and I, now you understand what Earl went through when we changed the Hillbilly logo. You know, you thought that was not going to be a big deal, and you know, it snowballed into, you know, next thing I know, we had a big community problem. So we don't want to have that. So I think more comments there. You guys want to talk about that too?
I was going to come up.
See if I can get you a chat.
Closing it out.
No, that's all right.
I didn't write anything down like Mrs. Manley, so I'm going to apologize in advance about all the that's going to come out. My name's, sorry, I'm Cassidy. I'm a senior here at VHS, and I am really proud of being Hillbilly, being here, being a senior. And I've been to every graduation, like there. I was there at the bringing you on, and I was in the auditorium, and yes, like it was really, really hot. But when I found out about this, I was at work. I work at Lakeside, and I was crushed. I know it may not seem like a big deal, but I feel I've been so excited for graduation, to walk on the field and to because that's like home. Because I love football games, I'm there all the time. So I just feel like I'm so excited to get up there and it's my field and it's my home turf. So I feel like Caldwell, you guys are oh, big TV screens, air conditioning. It sounds really cool, but it doesn't have that homey feeling, you know? And, what else was I going to say? And the other thing was, like I said, I went to all the graduations, but it's less convenient to go to Caldwell to because I could walk here, and last year I didn't have a ticket, but I came for pictures afterwards. So I feel like some of my friends or some of my fellow students couldn't get to Caldwell and maybe oh Cass, I really wish I could have seen you. but I couldn't, because I couldn't find a way to call it off. I couldn't do that, and there could be more, like, I feel like it's almost like missing out if we go. And, I don't know, like, it's just, I feel like we'd be like,
Doesn't feel like home.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else?
She's nervous.
That's it.
Okay.
Al Deol, 15 Howard Street. As part of my duties when I taught here at Verona High School, not all 17 years, but most of it, probably at least 15, I was given the job of checking to make sure everything was, did the custodians have X chairs for the faculty? Was this done? Was that done?
Do the preparation for the graduate.
Yeah, I didn't have to do that kind of stuff, but I was, obviously, I went to at least 17 graduations here. And I think, you acknowledged already that you made a mistake. I think what you need to do at this point would be to poll the students and to poll the parents. And if you have bad weather and it gets, where you have to move indoors, if that's the decision, it's their decision to make as to what they want to do. Now, I will say this, I just went to my grandson's graduation out in Pennsylvania, and it was in this great big giant stadium facility that they had there. And it was air conditioned, it went off beautifully, it was comfortable, it was a hot summer day, and it was great. And then everyone's, but maybe that, I don't know how, I didn't ask how they determined whether they should go there. I think it was just because of it's like a combination school district, and they have a huge crowd. I mean, there are thousands and thousands of people there. So that worked. This is Verona, and I understand what they're saying. And I do want to tell you, I want these people to hear this. There was one graduation, and I sat there on the field. I was responsible for the diplomas on the table. There was a crack of thunder over this mountain, and I leaned forward to the principal and said, I think I should get up, because I had plastic bags underneath, and I should cover the diplomas. So immediately I started with that crack of thunder. Well, by the time I got the last bag, the raindrops came down in huge pelts. We ended up, I don't want to say a wet t-shirt contest, but it was a wet cap and gown contest in the auditorium.
Get closer than we're regretting this. Keep going.
Okay, yes. And yet it was one of the most memorable events that I can remember of all the graduations, and nobody moaned and groaned about it. I'm glad we moved, because lightning actually hit on the back of the bleachers they had set up for the students. They had these two poles, big Verona High School banner. Lightning hit one of the poles later on. It was a horror, but everybody remembered it, and I really understand what this young lady is saying about being here on your home turf. I just wanted to give you, if the people make the decision, and they say they want to be here, and it gets rained out, or it's hot, it's the decision that's what they say they want. And I think that might be a way around some of the problems that you have right now. And if it's a beautiful night, well, then you're going to have just a wonderful graduation, and that. But there is always that great possibility for the weather.
Okay, good. I have the vote in my house limited to those over 18 who are not on the Board of Ed. They split 50-50. But it was my daughter who said, "You got to be kidding me, that this can't be for real, that you're moving." But she was also the kid that said, "Let it rain and we'll just stay outside so people get wet." And I was like, "You can't do that either," and how graduation had unfortunately moved to the site. There's one other thing I didn't mention before. Recognizing the focus on the bigger deal on the VHS graduation, this also includes the HBW graduation that we have to take into account as well. And it's not clear that that's an all or nothing sort of thing. Maybe there's a partial thing. The HBW one, is worth mentioning, is always indoors. It's never outside, right? And I can, I'm sure this.
It's always hot and it's comfortable.
It is.
We were there.
Yeah. Angela, I'll tell you, the concern that we have at HBW is not just. It's not just, we've had people pass out, and there's, it's in the morning, there's grandparents, there's less around the tickets and all, but the concern that we have at HBW is a little bit different. It has a different characteristic to it, and that's that we're at a recent day all-time high population. HBW is now over 700 students in that building. I remember, Joe, I think when you and I first got on board, it was, we were somewhere around just over 600. Now we're over 700, about 720 students. So those graduations are going to have that many more people. And already we have, I think this year, there was well over 100 folks, family, who couldn't get into the auditorium even to stand. They had to watch their relatives, by whatever definition of close friends, graduate by standing in the hallway and hoping you could hear through some open door. That's just poor. I mean, we could do better than that. So maybe there's a different solution for HBW than there is at the high school, because the concern there is a different one, I think.
Yes.
And we'll come back. I'm sure we're going to get to the right answer. The right thing to do is
People
to...
don't like change. I think I'm one of those. I'm not a big change person. It takes me a while to get used to an idea.
Right.
And in my heart, when my daughter's telling me she doesn't like the idea, and as a parent and as an alumni and living here, it's sad that my daughter will. If that decision's made, then, I just want my voice heard. I mean, there's no way you could get the field where there would be a tent or an awning that could roll out to cover people, where the bleachers are, a tent where the students are, or where the faculty is. I don't know. Is there other ideas?
If it gets to that, we can check into different. The thing. I don't want to comment before Al was on a roll, but back then, Al, there was probably different laws around what happens when there's a bolt of lightning and you're on school property at a school front. Like these days, if there's a bolt of lightning or the lightning detector goes off, you have to get off the field.
Right.
Regardless of tent. So, it's a little bit more. My point is that there's lots that we're trying to consider. I think we want to communicate that better. I think we'll take, luckily we have the date reserved if we need it at the moment. We have it out that's very clear. When we just say, hey, you know what, we changed our minds. No big deal. It's not that much money for us to pay. So
and Mr. Caesar took the SCA president there. Is that who he took?
He took the board,
Okay.
SCA leadership board.
Okay, I got you.
It's 4 people. They had their meeting last night.
But it's important to say that was one thing that was timely to say from the last meeting. We said, hey, let's take a step back. Let's do all the things that we should have done in retrospect and go do them, because we do have an out on the agreement. And that was one thing that they were meeting anyway, and they just happened to just change the location of the meeting and say, let's go have our meeting there. So I think there'll be more of that.
Right.
I don't know that this is going to get resolved in the next 3 weeks. It may take 2 more months to get to all the P's and Q's, but the intention is not to have the last thing we want to have is a graduation where half the student body gets up and turns their back, and the board president gets up there and gives a speech. Right?
We don't want that either.
Right,
Can
exactly.
we put it on as a referendum during the election? We're not coming election, everybody will come out for that.
I think the only challenge, we could, we could consider that. There's lots of...
It's a bond.
Yeah,
I personally, I'm not having graduated from Verona, so I can't speak to your exact things, but, in the city, everybody graduates at Lincoln Center or something, we don't have fields. And it's quite special to be up on the stage, and I would just think that, you're the YouTube generation, and I would challenge you to form a committee and put together, imagine as a student comes up, you could flash the graduation picture, you could flash where they're gonna go to college. There's some opportunities with the audio-visual aspect to make it actually a more, I think, current and exciting event. So I just would like people to think about that.
Yeah.
You guys make videos all the time.
Yeah, so I think by getting all of this out there more completely, some of those ideas, you can look at them and say, hey, you know what, some of those are good ideas, or, we don't care so much about them, I'd rather be on the field that I participated in somehow back in school. So, I think we'll get to the right time. But again, those are the sorts of considerations that they need to get out. Anybody else? All right, our next meeting is September 25th, confidential session at 7:30, and the public meeting following at 8 o'clock. Thank you.